Welcome to Stoic Mastery, where we delve into the ancient philosophy of Stoicism and explore its practical applications in modern life. In this video, we will explore the wisdom of the ancient Stoics and their practical advice for conquering addiction and breaking bad habits. The Stoics believed that true happiness comes from within, and that by developing self-control and discipline, we can overcome even the most entrenched patterns of behavior. Join us on this journey of self-discovery and transformation, as we explore the Stoic path to a better life. Let's get started. The Stoics believed that addiction and bad habits are symptoms of a deeper issue: our inability to control our desires and impulses. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, it's not the addiction or bad habit itself that's the problem, but our response to it. To overcome addiction and bad habits, the Stoics advocated for a practice called ascesis, or rigorous self-discipline. This involved training ourselves to resist our desires and impulses, and to focus on what is truly important in life. By practicing ascesis, we can develop the inner strength and resilience needed to overcome even the strongest of temptations. The Stoic philosopher Seneca provides an excellent example of this in his essay on the shortness of life. In it, he describes how he overcame his addiction to gambling by setting strict limits on his behavior and learning to find joy in other pursuits. By focusing on what truly mattered to him, he was able to break free from the cycle of addiction and live a more fulfilling life. Another key Stoic practice for overcoming addiction and bad habits is the cultivation of mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being fully present and aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions in the present moment. By becoming more mindful, we can gain greater insight into the root causes of our addiction or bad habit, and develop the awareness needed to change our behavior. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius believed that mindfulness was essential for living a virtuous life. In his Meditations, he wrote, "The mind in itself has no needs, except for those it creates itself, is undisturbed, except for its own disturbances, knows no obstructions, except those from within." By cultivating mindfulness, we can learn to control our thoughts and emotions, and develop greater self-awareness and self-control. To develop mindfulness, the Stoics practiced a technique called prosauche, or attention. This involved directing our attention towards our thoughts and emotions, and observing them with detachment and objectivity. By practicing prosauche, we can develop the mental discipline needed to overcome addiction and bad habits, and live a more mindful and fulfilling life. The Stoics believed that one of the biggest obstacles to overcoming addiction and bad habits is our attachment to pleasure and aversion to pain. We become addicted to behaviors that bring us pleasure, and avoid behaviors that cause us discomfort or pain. However, the Stoics believed that true happiness and freedom come from learning to accept both pleasure and pain with equanimity. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less. Or do what is essential, what the logos of a social being requires, and in the requisite way. Which brings a double satisfaction. To do less, better." In other words, by focusing on what is truly important in life and letting go of our attachment to pleasure, we can find greater fulfillment and contentment. To overcome addiction and bad habits, the Stoics also recommended practicing self-restraint and moderation. By setting limits on our behavior and practicing moderation in all things, we can learn to resist our impulses and overcome even the strongest of temptations. By practicing self-restraint, we can develop the inner strength and resilience needed to break free from the cycle of addiction and live a more virtuous life. Another Stoic technique for overcoming addiction and bad habits is the use of positive affirmations and visualization. The Stoics believed that by focusing our thoughts and emotions on positive outcomes, we can cultivate the inner strength and motivation needed to achieve our goals. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, By visualizing ourselves as the kind of person we want to be, we can inspire ourselves to take the necessary steps to achieve that vision. To apply this technique to addiction and bad habits, the Stoics recommended creating positive affirmations and repeating them to ourselves regularly. For example, we might say to ourselves, "I am free from addiction and bad habits," or "I am strong and disciplined." By focusing our thoughts and emotions on these positive affirmations, we can develop the inner strength and motivation needed to overcome even the strongest of temptations. Through the use of positive affirmations and visualization, the Stoics believed that we can cultivate the inner resources needed to overcome addiction and bad habits, and live a more fulfilling and virtuous life. Finally, the Stoics believed that we must cultivate a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives in order to overcome addiction and bad habits. By developing a clear sense of our values and priorities, we can find the motivation and inspiration needed to live a virtuous life. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." You are arranging what lies in fortune's control, and abandoning what lies in yours. In other words, by focusing on what is truly important in the present moment, we can find greater fulfillment and contentment. To develop a sense of purpose and meaning, the Stoics recommended reflecting on our values and priorities, and aligning our actions with those values. By living in accordance with our values, we can find a sense of meaning and purpose in even the most mundane tasks. Through the cultivation of purpose and meaning, the Stoics believed that we can overcome addiction and bad habits, and live a more fulfilling and virtuous life. By focusing on what truly matters and aligning our actions with our values, we can find the inner strength and motivation needed to overcome even the strongest of temptations. In conclusion, the Stoic path to overcoming addiction and bad habits requires us to cultivate self-awareness, acceptance, self-restraint, positive affirmations, visualization, and a sense of purpose and meaning in our lives. By developing these inner resources, we can find the strength and motivation needed to break free from the cycle of addiction and live a more fulfilling and virtuous life. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." In other words, overcoming addiction and bad habits is a process that requires patience, persistence, and a commitment to living a virtuous life. Thank you for watching this video from Stoic Mastery. We hope that you found it informative and helpful in your journey towards mastery of Stoicism.